The Crimson Palace stood like a dark jewel against the purple sky of Noctera Prime. Its towers reached toward the twin moons, and its walls were made of stone so black it seemed to swallow light. Tonight, thousands of lanterns floated through its halls, casting red shadows on faces that had not aged in centuries. Princess Seraphina Vale stood before her mirror, but she did not see her own reflection. Her kind cast no reflection. Instead, she saw only the empty glass and the room behind her. Her handmaidens moved silently, adjusting her gown of midnight silk and placing silver chains in her dark hair. She was 412 years old, young by Valori standards. Her skin was pale as moonlight, her eyes the color of old blood. She was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, and every being in the galaxy knew her name. Tonight was the Blood Moon Gala. Tonight, princes from 7 empires would come to court her. Tonight, she would begin the ancient process of choosing a mate. She hated every moment of it already. "Your Highness," said her chief handmaiden, "the guests are arriving." Seraphina nodded and walked toward the great ballroom. Her gift, the rare ability to taste emotions, was already active. She could feel the crowd before she saw them. Hundreds of feelings pressed against her mind, like waves against a shore. Greed, ambition, lust, fear, the same flavors she had tasted for 4 centuries. The ballroom was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness above. Crystals hung in the air, spinning slowly and casting fragments of light across the gathering. Representatives from dozens of species filled the space. The Zentari stood in clusters, their crystalline bodies catching the light. The Draconians towered over others, their scales gleaming like armor. The Etherians drifted like clouds of gentle light. And there, near the great doors, stood the human delegation. Seraphina had never paid much attention to humans before. They were a young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. They lived such short lives, burning out in less than a century. The galaxy considered them curious but unimportant. Children playing among ancient giants. The human ambassador was a woman named Grace Liu. She was small and composed, her dark hair streaked with gray. Beside her stood several aides and guards. One of them caught Seraphine's attention. He was tall for a human, with brown hair and tired eyes. He wore the simple uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. He stood slightly apart from his colleagues, watching the room with quiet interest rather than nervous energy. Seraphina tasted his emotions without meaning to, the way one might catch a scent on the wind. She stopped walking. His emotions were different. She had tasted millions of beings over her long life. Most of them felt the same underneath their surface feelings. Calculation, self-interest, hunger for something they did not have. But this human felt like standing near a fire on a cold night. There was warmth without demand, curiosity without agenda, a gentle sadness that made everything else more real. "Your Highness?" Her handmaiden touched her arm. "The princes are waiting." Seraphina forced herself to move. She took her place on the raised platform where her father, the Emperor, sat on his throne of black glass. Her brother Malachar stood nearby, his eyes scanning the crowd for threats. One by one, the alien princes approached to present themselves. Prince Kelthor of the Zentari Dominion came first. He was made of living crystal, beautiful and cold. He bowed and spoke of the great alliance their union would create. Seraphina tasted his emotions. Pure calculation, like ice without flavor. Prince Vorax of the Draconian hegemony came next. He was massive, his scales the color of dried blood. He spoke of strength and conquest and the empire they would build together. His emotions tasted like metal and fire, ambition so hot it burned. Prince Lumaias of the Etherian collective drifted forward like a cloud of gentle light. He spoke of harmony and efficiency. His emotions were barely there at all, like trying to taste water. 4 more princes followed. each one powerful, each one offering wealth, armies, or ancient alliances, each one wanting her for what she represented, not who she was. Serafina smiled and nodded and said the proper words. Inside, she felt nothing but exhaustion. When the formal presentations ended, the gala began in truth. Music filled the air, strange and haunting. Guests mingled and whispered and plotted. Serafina drifted through the crowd, accepting compliments and deflecting questions. She found herself near the edge of the ballroom, close to where the human delegation stood. The human with the tired eyes was looking at the floating crystals above. He seemed genuinely fascinated by them, not pretending interest for political advantage, just honest wonder at something beautiful. He noticed her watching and quickly lowered his gaze. "Your Highness," he said, bowing his head. "Forgive me. I did not mean to stare." His voice was warm and rough, like wood smoke. "You were looking at the crystals," Serafina said. "Not at me. They remind me of something from home," he said. "Fireflies. They are small insects that glow in the dark. When I was a child, I used to catch them in jars and watch them blink." Serafina had never heard of fireflies. She had never thought to ask a human about their home. "I am Lieutenant Daniel Carter," he said, "attached to the Terran embassy." "I know what you are," Serafina said. "Human. Your species lives such short lives." She expected him to be offended. Instead, he smiled, and the smile reached his tired eyes. "We do," he agreed. "Maybe that is why we try to notice beautiful things when we find them." Serafina tasted his emotions again. Still that warmth. Still that gentle fire. No greed, no calculation. Just a man standing in a room full of ancient powers, looking at floating crystals and thinking of childhood summer nights. Across the room, Prince Varax was watching them with narrow eyes. Prince Malakir had noticed too, his expression sharp with suspicion. Serafina knew she should walk away. The human was nobody. He had nothing to offer her. No power, no alliance. No army dot, but his emotions tasted like honey and fire. And she had been cold for so very long. "Tell me more," she said, "about these fireflies." Daniel Carter looked surprised. Then he smiled again and began to speak of summer nights on a small blue world, where tiny lights danced in the darkness and children ran laughing through warm grass. Serafina listened, and for the first time in decades, she forgot about duty. She forgot about princes and politics and the weight of her crown. She simply listened to a human talk about light. Ambassador Grace Liu was not a woman who frightened easily. She had faced down warlords and survived 2 interstellar incidents. But when Prince Varax demanded a meeting at the Terran embassy, she felt a chill run through her bones. The draconian prince filled the meeting room with his presence. He was 3 meters tall, covered in scales like armor plates, and his eyes burned with cold fire. 2 of his guards stood behind him, their weapons barely concealed. "I will be direct," Varax said. "Your officer has insulted me." Grace kept her face calm. "Lieutenant Carter has done nothing improper. He has simply attended official functions and maintained the embassy gardens." "He has distracted the princess," Varax growled. "He has turned her attention away from her proper suitors. This is an insult to the draconian hegemony. With respect, Prince Varax, the princess makes her own choices. We cannot control who she speaks with." Varax leaned forward, his massive claws scratching the table. "Then perhaps you should remove your officer from this planet, before something unfortunate happens to him." The threat hung in the air like poison. Grace did not flinch. Earth does not abandon its people because a foreign power is unhappy with them. Varax studied her for a long moment. Then he stood, his guards snapping to attention behind him. "Humans are brave," he said. "Foolishly brave. Bravery without strength is just another word for death." He walked toward the door, then paused. 3 days until the selection ceremony. Much can happen in 3 days. After he left, Grace called Daniel to her office. "You need to leave Noctura Prime," she said. Daniel shook his head. "I have not done anything wrong." "That does not matter. Varax wants blood. If you stay, you will give him an excuse to take it. And if I run, what message does that send? That humans can be frightened away with threats?" Grace sighed. She understood his point. Earth was still a minor power in galactic politics. Every action, every response, shaped how other species saw them. "Daniel," she said gently, "what is really going on? The princess seeks you out. You spend hours together. This is not just about gardens and fireflies." Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "She sees me, Ambassador. Not my species. Not my rank, me. And I see her. Not the princess, not the political prize. Just a woman who has been alone for 400 years, surrounded by people who want to use her." Grace studied his face. She had known Daniel for years. He was not a man given to drama or romance. If he felt this strongly, it was real. "You understand this cannot end well," she said. "She is immortal. You are not. Even if the princess step aside, even if the emperor allows it, she will watch you grow old and die." "I know," Daniel said. "She knows too. We have talked about it. And?" Daniel smiled sadly. "She said she would rather have a few decades of warmth than endless centuries of cold." That evening, Serafina came to the embassy. She was cloaked and hooded, trying to avoid notice, but Daniel felt her presence before he saw her. There was something between them now, a connection that did not need words. They met in the garden, among the roses that were already beginning to fade. "My brother has put guards on me," Serafina said. "I had to trick them to come here." "You should not have risked it," Daniel said. "Varax is dangerous. He threatened the ambassador today." "I know what Varax is," Serafina said. "I have known his kind for centuries. Bullies who mistake cruelty for strength." She reached out and took Daniel's hand. Her skin was cool, but her grip was firm. "I will not let him dictate my choices." "Serafina," Daniel said, using her name for the first time without her title, "I am just a man. I have nothing to offer you. No armies, no alliances, no immortality. In 50 years, maybe less, I will be dead." "I know," she said. "You will watch me age, watch me weaken, watch me fade. I know. How can you choose that? How can you choose loss when you could have forever?" Serafina stepped closer. In the moonlight, her eyes were deep and old and full of something Daniel had no name for. "Because forever means nothing if it is empty," she said. "I have tasted the emotions of thousands of beings. Most of them feel like shadows, pale copies of life. But you burn. You feel everything so deeply, so intensely, because you know it will end." She touched his face with her cool fingers. "That fire is worth more than endless cold eternity. You are worth more." Daniel closed his eyes. He felt her emotions washing over him, though he had no gift to taste them. He felt her certainty, her fear, her hope. "The Emperor will never allow it," he said. "Then I will defy him. Varax will try to kill me. Then I will protect you. Or die trying." Daniel opened his eyes. He looked at this ancient creature who had lived through centuries of politics and power, who had seen empires rise and fall, who could have any being in the galaxy died, and she had chosen him. "I cannot ask you to give up everything for me," he said. Serafina smiled. And for a moment, she did not look like a princess or a vampire or an immortal creature of the dark. She looked like a woman in love, frightened and hopeful and utterly certain. "You are not asking," she said. "I am choosing. She kissed him then, in the garden of dying roses, under the twin moons of an alien world. And Daniel Carter, a nobody from a small blue planet, kissed her back. Somewhere in the darkness, watchers saw them. The word would spread. The consequences would come. But in that moment, neither of them cared about anything except the warmth between them. The days after the gala passed in a blur of formal meetings and elaborate displays. Each alien prince competed for Seraphine's attention in his own way. Prince Kelthor summoned artisans to create a sculpture of pure light that would stand forever in the palace gardens. It was beautiful and completely cold. Like everything about him, Prince Vorax organized a hunt in the dark forests of Noctera Prime. He killed 6 great beasts with his bare claws and laid their bodies at Seraphine's feet. His pride tasted like copper in her mind. Prince Luminous composed a symphony of pure energy that played directly in the listener's thoughts. It was technically perfect and emotionally empty. Seraphina attended each display. She smiled and praised and played her role. But every evening, when her duties ended, she found herself walking toward the Terran Embassy Gardens. Daniel had created something small and strange there. Using soil shipped from Earth and seeds he had carried across the stars, he had grown a tiny garden. Roses bloomed in red and white and pink. Their scent was unlike anything on Noctera Prime, sweet and alive and somehow sad. They only bloom for a short time, Daniel explained one evening as they walked among the flowers. A few weeks at most. Then they fade. That seems wasteful, Seraphina said. To create something beautiful that dies so quickly. Daniel touched a red rose gently. Maybe that is what makes them beautiful. They know they do not have forever. So they bloom as brightly as they can while they can. Seraphina watched his face as he spoke. The twin moons were rising, casting silver light across the garden. Daniel's emotions were steady and warm, like coals that had burned for a long time. You speak of flowers, she said, but you mean humans. He looked at her, surprised. Then he laughed softly. I suppose I do. We cannot help it. Everything we create, everything we love, we know we will lose eventually. Maybe that is why we hold on so tightly. The princes who court me will live for thousands of years, Seraphina said. They offer me eternity. Eternity sounds lonely, Daniel said. A lot of time to fill with nothing. Seraphina had never heard anyone speak of long life as a burden before. Among her people, mortality was a curse, something to be pitied. But Daniel made it sound different. He made it sound like humans had found a secret that immortals had missed. What do humans fill their time with? She asked. Love, mostly, Daniel said. Family, friends, work that matters, stories, music, arguments about things that do not matter at all. He smiled. We waste a lot of time, but we enjoy the wasting. They walked in silence for a while. The roses swayed in the night breeze. Somewhere in the palace, Seraphina could feel the cold ambition of the princes waiting for her, their emotions like stones in still water. I can feel emotions, she said. It is my gift. I taste what others feel. Daniel nodded slowly. I have heard this about your people. The princes feel nothing for me, Seraphina said. They want my crown, my power, my father's alliance. When I taste their emotions, I taste only hunger, like standing in an empty room. She stopped walking and looked at Daniel directly. When I taste your emotions, I taste fire, warmth, something I do not have a word for. It is like the scent of your roses, alive and brief and impossible to hold. Daniel's face changed. She could feel his emotions shift, surprise and concern, and something deeper that he quickly pushed down. Your Highness, he said carefully, I am just a lieutenant, a nobody from a nobody planet. You should not say such things to me. I know what I should do, Seraphina said. I have known for 400 years, but I am tired of should. Before Daniel could respond, a cold voice cut through the garden. Sister, Prince Malachar stepped out of the shadows. He had been watching them. Seraphina felt his emotions, sharp and suspicious like broken glass. Brother, she said calmly, you are spying on me. I am protecting you, Malachar said, from making a fool of yourself with this human. He looked at Daniel with open contempt. Go back to your embassy, Lieutenant. You do not belong here. Daniel bowed his head. Of course, Your Highness. He glanced at Seraphina once, his emotions a swirl of regret and concern, then walked away into the darkness. Malachar watched him go, then turned to his sister. What are you thinking? The princes are already insulted that you spend time with lesser species. If word spreads that you prefer a human to them, there will be consequences. Let there be consequences, Seraphina said. Malachar grabbed her arm. This is not a game. Prince Varax has already spoken to Father. He believes the human is an insult to his honor. The draconian hegemony does not take insults lightly. Seraphina pulled her arm free. Then perhaps Prince Varax should return to his hegemony. I did not invite him. I do not want him. What you want does not matter, Malachar hissed. You are a princess of the Valori Empire. Your marriage is not about love. It is about power. Seraphina looked at her brother. She had known him for 4 centuries. She had watched him become harder and colder with each passing year, more like their father, more like the princes who came to court her. And if I refuse? She asked quietly. Malachar's expression was stone. Then you will bring war to our doorstep. Is one human worth that? He turned and walked away, leaving Seraphina alone among the roses. She stood there for a long time, breathing in their strange, sweet scent. She thought about Daniel's words, about brief lives and bright flames and holding tightly to things you knew you would lose. The princes offered her eternity, an endless stretch of cold, empty years. Daniel offered her nothing except warmth, nothing except fire, nothing except the feeling of being truly seen for the first time in 400 years. She touched the rose gently, feeling its soft petals, knowing it would wither in days, maybe. She thought, that is exactly the point. The throne room fell silent when Prince Varax spoke the ancient words. I invoke the challenge of blood. Emperor Vale sat motionless on his throne of black glass. His daughter stood beside him, her face pale, her hands clenched at her sides. The gathered nobles and ambassadors held their breath. The challenge has not been invoked in 3 centuries, the emperor said slowly. The law still stands, Varax replied. Any suitor may challenge a rival to combat. The winner earns the right to court. The loser forfeits his claim and his life. Lieutenant Carter is not a suitor, Seraphina said quickly. He has made no formal claim. Varax smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. He has made a claim with his actions. All of Noctera Prime knows the princess prefers the company of this human to her proper suitors. That is claim enough. The emperor turned to look at his daughter. His emotions were close to her, hidden behind centuries of control. But she knew what he was thinking. If Daniel refused the challenge, he would be shamed and exiled. If he accepted, he would die. Either way, the problem would be solved. The human may decline, the emperor said. He may leave Noctera Prime in peace. In shame, Varax corrected. Running like prey. Ambassador Liu stepped forward from the human delegation. This is outrageous. Lieutenant Carter is a diplomatic officer, not a warrior. You cannot expect him to fight a draconian prince. The law does not care about expectations, Varax said. Only about blood. Daniel Carter stood very still among his fellow humans. He could feel every eye in the room on him. He could feel Seraphine's fear, sharp and desperate, though he had no gift to taste it. He could feel the weight of what this moment meant. If he ran, he would survive. But humanity would be seen as cowards forever. Every human who came to Noctera Prime after him would carry that shame. And Seraphina would be forced to choose one of the princes who saw her as property. If he fought, he would die. Varax was stronger, faster, and had centuries of combat training. No human could match a Draconian in single combat, but he would die on his feet. He would show the galaxy that humans did not run from bullies, no matter how powerful. He would show Seraphina that her choice had not been wrong. "I accept," Daniel said. The room erupted in murmurs. Ambassador Liu grabbed his arm. "Daniel, no. This is suicide." "Maybe," he said quietly, "but some things are worth more than survival." Seraphina pushed through the crowd to reach him. Her eyes were bright with tears she was too proud to shed. "Please," she whispered. "Do not do this. I will find another way. I will defy my father, flee the planet, anything." Daniel took her hands in his. "You chose me because I am human. Because I feel things deeply and hold on tightly to what matters. This is what that looks like. I will not run from something I love. You will die." "Everyone dies," Daniel said. "I would rather die being worthy of you than live knowing I abandoned you." The combat would take place the next night in the Arena of Shadows, an ancient fighting ground carved into the mountains outside the palace. That evening, Seraphina came to Daniel's quarters in the embassy. "I can turn you," she said. "Make you Valori. You would be stronger, faster, harder to kill." Daniel shook his head. "Then I would not be the man you chose. You chose a human. Whatever I am to you, I will be it as what I am." "Stubborn," she said. "Foolish. Impossibly stubborn. Humans usually are." She kissed him then, desperately, as if she could pour her 4 centuries of life into him through touch alone. Daniel held her and memorized the feeling of her in his arms, the cool smoothness of her skin, the ancient sadness in her eyes. "Whatever happens tomorrow," he said, "know that you gave me something I never expected to find. Not just love, purpose, something worth dying for." "I do not want you to die for me," she said. "I want you to live for me." "Then I will try," Daniel said. "That is all any human can do. Try." The Arena of Shadows was a bowl of black stone beneath a sky full of stars. Thousands of spectators filled the seats, nobles from a dozen species, ambassadors, merchants, soldiers. At the edge of the arena, Seraphina stood with her brother and father, her face carved from marble. Prince Varax entered first to cheers from the Draconian delegation. He was armored in scales that had been hardened by volcanic heat, carrying a blade as long as Daniel was tall. He moved like a predator, confident and hungry. Daniel entered to silence. He wore simple combat gear, the standard equipment of Earth's military. He carried a short blade and a shield. Compared to Varax, he looked like a child facing a monster. The Emperor raised his hand. "Begin." Varax charged immediately, covering the distance between them in 2 massive strides. His blade swung in an arc that would have cut Daniel in half. Daniel was not there. He had moved the moment Varax moved, rolling sideways, letting the blade pass through empty air. Varax was fast, but he was also predictable. He expected overwhelming force to win. He expected his opponent to stand and fight and lose. Daniel did not fight like a Draconian. He fought like a human. He ran. He dodged. He used every inch of the arena to stay alive, never standing still, never giving Varax a clean target. "Coward," Varax roared. "Stand and face me." Daniel said nothing. He was saving his breath, counting Varax's movements, looking for patterns. Every warrior had habits. Varax always stepped left before a thrust. He always paused slightly after a heavy swing. Small things, human things to notice. The fight went on. Minutes passed. Varax grew frustrated, then angry. His attacks became wilder, more powerful, less controlled. The crowd began to murmur. This was not the quick execution they had expected. Daniel was bleeding from a dozen small cuts. His arms burned with exhaustion. But Varax was breathing hard too, confused by an opponent who would not die properly. Then Daniel saw his moment. Varax swung wide, putting all his weight into a killing blow. He paused for just a heartbeat after the swing, his balance slightly off. Daniel moved. He did not try to overpower the prince. He could not. Instead, he used Varax's own momentum, stepping inside his reach, driving his short blade into the gap between the scales at Varax's throat. The draconian prince fell. The arena went completely silent. Daniel stood over his fallen enemy, bleeding and exhausted and still alive. He looked up at the royal box, at Seraphina, at the Emperor, at the galaxy watching. "I am Daniel Carter," he said, his voice rough but clear. "I am human, and I do not run from what I love." In the crowd, Prince Malachar felt something he had not felt in centuries. He tasted the humans' emotions as Daniel spoke, and they burned like stars. For the first time, he understood what his sister had found in this strange, brief creature. Courage without calculation. Love without agenda. Fire that burned all the brighter because it knew it would not last. The alien princes withdrew in disgrace. The human had won, but the hardest battle was still to come. The selection ceremony took place 3 days after the duel. The throne room of the Crimson Palace had been prepared for centuries of tradition. Black banners hung from the ceiling. Ancient crystals floated in patterns that told the history of the Valori Empire. Every noble family had sent representatives. The galaxy was watching. Emperor Vale sat on his throne, his expression carved from stone. Beside him, Prince Malachar stood in formal armor, his face unreadable. The other alien princes had departed in disgrace after Varax's defeat, but the Emperor had summoned a dozen Valori nobles from distant territories. Proper suitors, acceptable choices. They stood in a line before the throne. Ancient and powerful and cold. Princess Seraphina entered through the great doors. She wore a gown of deepest red, the color of old blood, the color of choosing. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders. Her pale face was calm, but those who knew her could see the fire in her eyes. She walked slowly toward the throne, passing the line of noble suitors. Each one stood straighter as she approached, hoping she would stop before them. Each one tasted like ash in her mind. She did not stop. She walked past all of them, past her brother, past her father, until she stood at the edge of the platform. "Daughter," the Emperor said, his voice echoing through the silent room. "You must choose." "I have chosen," Seraphina said. She turned and looked toward the back of the throne room, where the human delegation stood in their simple uniforms. Daniel Carter was there, still bearing bandages from the duel, standing straight despite his wounds. "I choose the human," Seraphina said. "I choose Daniel Carter of Earth." The room erupted. Nobles shouted in protest. The Valori suitors looked at each other in confusion and anger. The Emperor rose from his throne, his ancient power pressing down on everyone present. "You cannot," he said. "The law requires you to choose from worthy bloodlines." "The law requires me to choose from those who have proven themselves worthy," Seraphina replied. Daniel Carter defeated Prince Varax in single combat. He has proven himself more worthy than any suitor who's ever sought my hand. He is human. He will die in decades. "Yes," Seraphina said. "He will. And every moment with him will be worth more than empty centuries with beings who see me as property." The Emperor's face twisted with fury. "I will not allow this. I will not let my daughter throw away her future on a mayfly creature who will wither and rot while she remains unchanged. Then you will have to kill me," Seraphina said quietly. Because I will not choose anyone else. Not now. Not ever. The room fell silent again. Father and daughter stared at each other across 4 centuries of expectation and duty. Then Prince Malachar stepped forward. Father, he said, I must speak. The Emperor turned to his son, surprise flickering across his ancient features. Malachar had always been loyal, always obedient. He had supported the traditional choice from the beginning. I was there when the human fought, Malachar said. I tasted his emotions as he stood over his defeated enemy. I expected to taste fear or triumph or bloodlust, the usual flavors of combat. He paused, looking at Daniel with something approaching respect. I tasted love, Malachar continued. Pure and desperate and willing to die. I have lived for 600 years, and I have never tasted anything like it. Our sister is right. The human has proven himself worthy in the only way that truly matters. The Emperor stared at his son in disbelief. You support this madness? I support my sister's happiness, Malachar said. Something I should have done from the beginning. The nobles murmured among themselves. The situation had changed. With the crown prince supporting the choice, opposing it became more complicated. The Emperor stood silent for a long moment. Then he sat back down on his throne, suddenly looking every one of his 2,000 years. The law is clear, he said heavily. A choice made in the selection ceremony cannot be undone. If this is your choice, daughter, then it is binding. Seraphina bowed her head. It is my choice. Now and forever. The Emperor waved his hand in dismissal. Then so be it. The ceremony is complete. Later that night, Seraphina found Daniel in the embassy gardens. The roses had almost all faded now, their petals scattered on the ground like drops of color. Only a few blooms remained, clinging to life in the alien soil. You did it, Daniel said as she approached. You actually did it. I told you I would, Seraphina said. She stood beside him, looking at the dying flowers. My father will never forgive me. Half the empire thinks I've gone mad. The other half thinks I am a fool. And what do you think? Seraphina turned to face him. In the light of the twin moons, she looked ancient and young at the same time. Beautiful and sad and hopeful. I think, she said slowly, that I have spent 400 years doing what I was supposed to do. Being what I was supposed to be. Feeling nothing real because real feelings are dangerous for someone who will live forever. She took his hands in hers. You showed me what it means to feel something worth the danger. To love something even though you know you will lose it. That is not madness. That is the only kind of sanity that matters. Daniel pulled her close. He was still wounded, still tired, still mortal. In 50 years, maybe less, he would be gone. But right now, in this moment, he was exactly where he wanted to be. I cannot give you eternity, he said. I do not want eternity, Seraphina replied. I want every sunrise and every sunset. Every ordinary morning and every quiet evening. I want to grow old with you in the only way I can. By watching you and memorizing you and loving you until there is nothing left to love. That sounds painful. It will be, she admitted. The pain means you cared about something real. I would rather hurt than feel nothing at all. Daniel kissed her forehead gently. Then, we will make every moment count. We will live more in decades than most beings live in millennia. Is that a human promise? It is my promise, Daniel said. And I always keep my promises. They stood together in the garden of dying roses, watching the twin moons rise over an alien world. Behind them, the Crimson Palace loomed dark and ancient. Ahead of them lay years of joy and sorrow, love and loss. Everything that made life worth living. In the months that followed, rumors spread across the galaxy. The cold Valori princess had chosen a human, a mortal, a creature who would wither and die while she remained unchanged. Some called it a scandal. Some called it a tragedy. But others, especially the young, called it something else. They called it hope. If the ancient Valori could find warmth in human fire, what else had the galaxy missed about the strange species from the small blue world? What other miracles were hiding in those brief, bright lives? On 100 worlds, in 1,000 quiet moments, beings who had lived too long in the cold began to wonder. Maybe, they thought, there was something to learn from creatures who knew how to burn.